Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Hello and welcome to another episode of NSE FinWiz powered by CNBC TV 18 Season 3. Today we're at the R&D Center in Navi Mumbai of a top global pharma company, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals. Glenmark Pharmaceuticals Limited is a research-driven global integrated pharmaceutical company. Ranked among the top 80 pharma and biotech companies of the world in terms of revenue, Glenmark has operations in over 80 countries spread across 5 continents over the globe, with an employee base of more than 11,000 employees. NSE FinWiz visited Glenmark in Mumbai with the country's finest experts to advise and educate the young employees on investments and financial planning. And we're now joined by our two very special experts. We have Mr. Hemant Rustagi, who's the CEO at Wise Invest Advisors. Welcome to the show, Hemant. And we have Gajendra Kothari, who's the MD and CEO at Etika Wealth Management. Welcome to the show, Gajendra. And our topic today, our core topic for today is life insurance. So Gajendra, let's get the ball rolling. Life insurance, great. People say you should get it. But there's a lot of confusion on the types of life insurance and which is, you could say, the best one. So could you shed some light on that?
See, first of all, let's understand life insurance, what it is. You know, life is full of ups and downs. While we look for positive events in life like marriage, better job, early retirement, good education for our children, life do throw its unpleasant share of unpleasant shocks, you know, in the form of disability, accident, death, critical illness, loss of job. It is for those events, you know, unfortunate events, you have to take protection. And that is what life insurance gives it to you in various forms and shapes, right? So that is why there are many products in life insurance which are meant for a different requirement. And some products are meant for your death cover, some are meant for disability, critical illness and things like that. Unfortunately in India, life insurance has been sold mostly in the form of investments, you know. And that is why even after 50 years of history, life insurance penetration in India in the true form of sense is less than 10%. So less than 10% of the people in our country are insured. Rest 90% are not insured. And that's a major stress on the ecosystem, on the government. So in life insurance, most people, all of you would have products like, you would have heard endowment plans, whole life plans, money back plans, pension plans. But none of these are kind of pure protection plans. These are plans in the sense you pay money and you have to pay premium for whole of your life. If something happens to you during that term, the company insured you and the company pay you the sum assured. But if nothing happens to you, you get the premium back, right? But the main form of insurance, which you look at the dictionary meaning, which is protection, is called a term insurance, which unfortunately it's not very popular in India. Less than 5% of the people, all those who are insured, have a term insurance cover. And that's the only cover which covers protection in the true sense. If something were to happen to you, your family gets the sum assured. If nothing happens, you're paying premium per annum, which is an expense, and you have to write it off.
Okay.
So that's how it is.
So, Hemant, let's delve on that a little. So Gajendra said that, about 5% of people who are insured, who are covered by life insurance, only 5% are term insurance. Because this is the feeling that I also get, this is the sense that I get from people when I talk to them, is that term insurance is kind of like, money down the drain. Because if you survive, then, well, you get nothing from the insurance company. If you die during the period, then fine, the insurance company pays you. So everybody's like, why should I even put that 15,000 per year, why should I put it in term insurance? What's your take on that?
Well, I think, like Gajendra said, when you talk about insurance, it's basically risk management. All of us have certain goals in life. All of us have certain, dreams for our children, for ourselves. We want to buy a house or we want to plan for our retirement. But the thing is, if in case of any eventuality, we are not ready for that. The problem is when you buy a product which is investment cum insurance product, you have not looked at what is your requirement. You may actually require, insurance cover of maybe 2 crore. But when you invest in a traditional, product, you may have insurance of only 15 to 20 lakhs. So God forbid if something happens to you, then the family gets only 15 lakh, where your requirement is 2 crore. Now, for example, you may have a goal of want to create a corpus for your children's education or your own retirement or for their marriage. Like, there are so many goals that we have. If you add up all that, the basic concept of insurance is that if something happens to the earning member of the family, the survivors, the remaining people in the family should not suffer financially. Okay, there is nothing you can do much about how you're affected emotionally, but financially the rest of the family should not get impacted. So clearly, the right form of buying insurance is a term plan. It's very, very cheap. In fact, if you buy online, it's even cheaper. The advantage of that is, one, you pay lower premium. The second is you get the quantum of insurance cover that you need. But the problem is, most of the people, the way they look at it is, look, nothing is going to happen to me. I will survive for 30 years. So why should I pay premium to the insurance companies and get nothing out of it? I think that's not the way to look at it. Now let's look at an example. A 35-year-old, if he gets, let's say, 1 crore term plan, he may pay around 10,000 rupees as a premium. Okay, and generally what we advise is take more than one term plan, maybe at least 2 or 3, not too many, but at least 2 or 3. The whole idea is you can link it with your any goal. Children education, you can link it to that, you can link it to some other goal. Once you reach that, once you achieve that goal, stop that term plan. Because what you're trying to do is ensuring that in case something were to happen, like I said earlier, the family does not suffer. The child still has to get education, right? You still need a corpus for the family. So I think the whole idea is, don't look at this that I'm going to lose 2.5 or 3 lakh rupees. Look at what are you getting out of it, the peace of mind. And if something happens, the family gets 1 crore or 2 crore. I think that's the right way to look at it. Also, let me tell you, if you compare that with the traditional plan, for example, someone has 15-20 lakh, a traditional plan, the premium that you pay is very, very high. So if you break that, you buy a term plan and invest that money in some good product like mutual funds, you will end up getting much higher corpus and also getting much higher risk cover. So I think it's always important to separate your insurance and investment needs and then move forward.
Hemant, Sailesh's question is, he says, is it advisable to go with the insurance company other than LIC with respect to the claim benefits? So basically, public versus private, is there a clear differentiation with respect to, like you were earlier talking about, claim benefits?
No, I don't really see that it makes a difference whether you're going for a public sector or a private sector. I did mention about earlier that you may be comfortable with the brand per se, but at the end of the day, you also need to look at other factors like the kind of premium that you're paying. So, if you go for a public sector, maybe the chances are you may end up actually sometime paying much more. You look at claim settlement ratio. If the company has a good, healthy claim settlement ratio, and you have given all the information that you ought to give, I think, which is very, very important. Don't try to hide any information. If you give all the information that is required, I don't see any problem at all. I don't think really need to get into debate of whether I'm buying a public sector insurance company or a private sector. Look at premium, look at your requirement, make sure that the plan that you're buying, it suits your requirement. And then, like I said, look at CSR and then go ahead with that.
On that note, it's time for a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're watching NSE FinWiz, powered by CNBC TV 18 Season 3. Welcome back. You're watching NSE FinWiz, powered by CNBC TV 18 Season 3, and today we're at the R&D facility in Navi Mumbai of Glenmark Pharmaceuticals. Hemant, let's start with one very basic, the root, the foundation, is goal setting. That's when people, they don't want to do goal setting because it's this huge task. It's this huge task. It looks like too unbelievable to be done. How do you advise people to start setting their goals and then go on investing?
Well, I agree with you. And whenever you talk about having a financial plan in place and setting your goals, it actually sounds a bit complicated and people just wonder sometime, whether I can do all this. But the fact is that, like everything else that we do in life, we need to plan for our investment. The problem with most of the investors is that they start investing haphazardly. And what I mean by that is that we have no idea as to where the money should be invested. We do have some money. All of us do have some money. Some, we get on a monthly basis. Sometimes we may have a lump sum. So what typically happens, sometime, a friend will come or some relative will come and say, equity markets will do very well. Why don't you put money in equity? And then someone will come and say, now we have tax-free bond. Why don't you put money in that? So without even realizing for how long I want to invest, what I want to do with this money, If you invest haphazardly, you don't know how much money is going into equity, how much is going into debt. So the moment there is a volatility in the equity market, the first thing you do is to take out money from there, go into debt. When the debt markets are doing well, put everything there. So I think it's important that we have a financial plan in place. And what we mean by that is, establish your goals. And all of us have different goals. We have some goals which we want to achieve in short term, some in medium term, some in long term. The advantage of that is, once you know what you want to do with the money, it gives your money a direction. It also helps you deciding where should you be putting money. Now, for example, if some of you are planning for your retirement, which may be 25, 30 years away, so you have that much time to build your corpus, right? So that money can go into equity. If it's a medium-term goal, 7, 8 years, it can be a hybrid, which is a mix of equity, debt. If it is required after 2 or 3 years, the focus has to be on safety of principal that you invest, not so much on return. So then you go into debt. So I think when you establish your goals, you give them a target and you give them a time horizon. Now that kind of helps you in deciding what kind of asset allocation should you have. And why that is important is because 90% of your money returns will come from asset allocation. And the 10% from the product that you choose. Unfortunately, we spend 90% of the time chasing that 10% thing, I think, which is completely wrong. So I think it's very, very important to establish goal and start your process in a proper manner.
If I've decided that I'll be investing a fixed amount of my income into ELSS fund for next 25 years, now if I chose that which is the best performing fund right now, I'll choose that and go ahead. But 5 years down the line or maybe 10 years down the line, if that fund is not performing well, so what should be my strategy at that point of time? Should I still continue for next 25 years into that same fund, or should I, after 10 years, look at some better fund and then withdraw everything and invest into that fund?
Okay, good, nice. Gajendra, you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. So this is not just about the tax saving fund. This can be applied to any mutual fund for that matter. It can be a diversified equity fund. Suppose you have invested in a particular diversified equity fund and your horizon is 10-20 years. It doesn't mean you buy and sleep over it. So you invest, and we normally recommend you invest through a financial planner or advisor because he or she gives you right insights. And then you should monitor it on a regular interval. Now, what should be that regular interval? That should never be daily. Many people I see check their values anyways daily basis and wondering what's happening. That's not a good idea. Once in a year on a Sunday, 2 hours, sit with your advisor and have a review of your portfolio and your goals. That's good enough. So, sometimes it may be so happening that your fund is not performing. Now, of course, you are not investing all your money in one fund. You have a diversified set of 3 or 4 funds. At any point of time, some funds will be doing well, some funds will not be doing well. You should never be worried about on an individual fund. You should look at overall how your portfolio is performing. Now, a particular fund may be underperforming for quite some time. Now, when I say underperforming to what? Underperformance can be compared to other peer groups, other mutual funds, or underperformance compared to the benchmark. And the benchmark can be Sensex or Nifty. If it is underperforming compared to peer group, but it is beating the benchmark, I think the fund is still doing fine. But if it is underperforming both categories, and it is severely underperforming over a 2, 3 or 4 year time period, that is a time you need to, it's a kind of a, warning call. You need to then kind of switch or, a review and then change into another fund. But don't look on a 6 month or 9 month or 1 year basis and decide, because then you will keep churning. There's no way to catch which will be the next winner, right? And secondly, I always tell people that money at the end of the day is made by sitting and not selling frequently, not churning. If you sit for long enough in a set of good 4-5 funds, I think on an average you can expect your portfolio will be able to give you much better return compared to if you are churning every 6 months or 1 year.
So all of us know that if you look at the history, the equity market always goes through the cycle. And even if you invest for, say, your goal is for 10 years or 15 years, you have a risk that once you come closer to your maturing your goal or achieving your goal, the equity cycle might again go through the bottom. So how do you really de-risk your portfolio and make sure that you don't lose out your corpus that you have built over the period of 10 or 15 years?
Okay. Hemant, you want to take that?
Yes, I think this is a great question. Many a time when we talk about a time horizon of 10 years or 15 years, we always assume that we have to continue this process for 10 years. Of course, we need to continue that process for 10 years. But like you rightly mentioned, when you're investing in an asset class like equity, which tends to be volatile during short term and medium term, as I mentioned earlier, the moment when you get closer to your completion of time horizon, a couple of years before that, you need to start realigning your portfolio. You need to restart realigning your asset allocation. Because what is important at that stage is that you need to preserve all the gains that you have made. If you require money exactly after 10 years, And in case that markets are down at that point in time by 15, 20%, you may lose a significant part of whatever corpus you have built. So the right procedure or the right process is 2 or 3 years before you reach your completion of time horizon, you start rebalancing your portfolio. Start moving gradually, because when you invest in equity, any gain that you make on redemption of units after 1 year is all tax-free. So you don't have to really bother about taxation aspect. Okay, so you start moving that money to debt part. Create a more balanced portfolio. Also remember, if, for example, you're investing for, let's say, child education, and the child education money will not be required at one go. It will be required over a period of 5 years. So don't try to pull out all the money after a completion of 10 years. Look at 15 years, then you have average of 12, 13 years. So depending on that, start rebalancing your portfolio so that you can preserve all the gain, because you still have to have some money in equities, because you have another 4 or 5 years to go. So that is the right way. You need to rebalance your portfolio when you get closer to completion of your time horizon.
On that note, it's time for a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching NSE FinWiz, powered by CNBC TV 18 Season 3.
I want to plan my retirement corpus through the mutual fund SIP, as I have already started this. But if I want to compare this with mutual fund SIPs and the NPS, because NPS is the highest amount in equity is 50%, and mutual fund equity as per our portfolio, as I have already chosen the diversified portfolio. So how you are seeing the comparison between mutual fund SIP up to 20 years and the investment in NPS up to 20 years?
Kajendra, you want to take that?
So as you rightly said, in NPS, presently, the fund in which you can invest, you have only 50% exposure to equity. There is no fund in NPS right now which is giving you 100% exposure to equity. In mutual funds, you have that, right? So if you are investing for your long term, and you know that risk, the volatility doesn't matter to you in the short term, the value can go up and down. Of course, the fund which has higher exposure to equity will beat NPS returns over a long period of time. We have history proving, such kind of thing. So if you can take a little higher risk and want to stay fully invested in equity, diversified mutual funds would be a better option compared to NPS any day, as of today. But if in future, I'm sure they will bring a full fund which has complete exposure to equity, and they will have many options, then I think it will be a, kind of a like-to-like comparison.
Is it advisable to have a liquid fund or putting your money in the liquid fund rather than in saving account? Or let me put it in another way, is it any product available where my money should go in that product rather than in saving account?
Sure, I think that's a great question. Generally the money that we keep for short term, we don't give importance to that. We said, okay, straight away it goes into SB account where we get 4% or thereabout. But I think you're absolutely right. When you look at, it depends on, again, for how long the money has to be invested. Many times I've seen the money is lying in the saving bank account for a year or even more. So first thing you need to see, what is your requirement? If you're not going to be needing that money for 6 months to 1 year, definitely there are a number of other options. If you look at the mutual fund, on the debt side, you have this ultra short-term fund, which have the potential to give you much higher return than what you can get from saving bank account. But if you're in the highest tax bracket of 30%, it may not be that tax efficient, okay? Because for a debt fund, any capital gain that you make within 3 years is taxable at your nominal tax rate, which means on taxation front, the bank and the mutual funds are on par for less than 3 years. But purely on the return point of view, ultra short-term fund will definitely give you a higher return.
And I just want to add 2 things here. So all of us have savings accounts, and at any point of time, 10, 15,000, 50,000, 1 lakh rupees is lying there. Now with the advent of technology, with the advancement, now you can park your money into a liquid fund just by an SMS. You just send an SMS, money gets withdrawn from your bank account, parked into a liquid fund as long as you want. So, in October, there are 5 days holidays, the bank is closed, your money is working for you, if the money is in liquid fund. Whenever you want money back into your, main account, again type an SMS, money comes back to your account next morning, right? That's the, advantage you have. There is another company in the mutual fund space which has launched a debit card linked to a liquid fund. So first of the month, you get your salary. Second of the month, you transferred, let's say, entire salary into the liquid fund. Your money is now earning 7-8%, right? Now, next day, you are going to a hotel and there's a bill of 1,500 rupees. You swipe the debit card, money gets withdrawn from the liquid fund. And until that money is there, it's earning 8%, which is much higher than the liquid fund. So you have to pay your electricity bill, swipe the card. In fact, even if you need to withdraw cash also 10, 20, 30,000, you can swipe the debit card in any ATM and you get the money instantly. So while the money is lying in the liquid fund, it's earning you higher return than the savings account, and you can enjoy your shopping and everything through the debit card. So this is a wonderful innovation, particularly for salaried employees. So, so all of you can have debit cards and you can use the way you are using normally.
Great, that was really helpful. I want to just say thank you so much, Hemant. Thank you, Gajendra, so much. Thank you very much for having us here.
Talking about learning is investing. Yes, that our horizon should normally be a long-term horizon, not a short-term. Planning for your retirement, which is again critical. About the total portfolio that you have, how much of it, though I won't say specifically, depending upon the age group, what should be your investment plan, the need for having a financial advisor who can plan your investments, and of course, the taxation part and the benefits of taxation that we derive from various kind of investments. That was also informative on this entire discussion.
From the learning perspective, basically there are 2-3 things that I would carry home. One thing is they spoke about term insurance, which generally people writ off, and I also writ off that I don't need it, but I would give it a thought. Second thing is I generally invest only in real estates, and second thing is FD. So I will now think about it to kind of diversify the whole thing. Third thing is I would also think about getting a financial advisor who can help me diversify the whole thing, basically.
Well, that's all on this episode of NSE FinWiz, powered by CNBC TV 18 Season 3. And here's a chance for you to get your hands on a cool goodie bag by answering this viewer question. Which life insurance policy has the comparative lowest amount of premium? Term, endowment, ULIP, money back. Send in your answers at fwq@network18online.com. The correct answer to last week's viewer question is option A, credit card. Many thanks to all the viewers who sent in their replies. The winners to episode 4's viewer question are Anil Kumar Bell and Asmita Deshpande. And we'll see you next week with another set of young employees at another company. Until then, from the entire team, many thanks for watching.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.